Hi everyone, it's Christy from Christy's Beautiful Life, and I'm here with another process video. This time my layout is called That Was Our Jam. And what it's talking about is my sister and I took a road trip back in 2008, and we literally went from one border to the other. So we started in Canada, so at the Canadian border, and we drove all the way down to San Francisco. Or sorry, not San Francisco, San Diego. And we hit a few places on the way. We drove down the Oregon coast and the California coast for a while too. That was really fun. We did go to San Francisco, and we went to Disneyland, and then we went to San Diego to go to the San Diego Zoo. It was, I think, a 2-week road trip that we did, and it was so much fun. It was before, well, Val actually had the two boys, but it was before Kira or Jackson obviously were around. So it's not something we'd ever be able to do again until they were older, but it was a great time and lots of fun memories, and I just really wanted to document. I had done a whole a whole album about it actually, but I'm not in love with it, and so some of the pages I was actually thinking about redoing. So that's where these two pictures have come from, was actually a couple layouts I had already done, and I decided that I was going to redo them anyway, so I was able to use those pictures for this one. And the title is called That Was Our Jam, and it's inspired to do because Victoria Marie's Facebook group, she had done a challenge. I want to say it was one of her Wednesday Hump challenges, and it was called That's My Jam. And so I'm like, oh, this would be perfect, because one thing I really remember when I went down there was when we were driving into San Francisco, you kind of, before you get onto the Golden Gate Bridge, you're kind of going down this bit of a hill and you see San Francisco. It's really cool. But I just remember that while we were doing that, the song called Ride With Me from Nelly was on, and it was kind of our theme song almost for this whole trip. We were singing it at the top of our lungs, and we would put it on repeat and just keep singing it. And there were a few other songs too, but for some reason that was the one we did. And you know, if I'm thinking about it right now, I kind of think that was even an old song when we were doing it. So it's kind of funny how some songs we just really like. But that's kind of the base of the story. So the two pictures are to represent San Francisco, so the Golden Gate Bridge, because that's where we were. That's where we were riding into when that memory. So that's what that stands for. And then the other picture is just a picture of me, and it was actually taken in Oregon when we went to go visit the redwoods, and could be maybe just as we crossed into California. So it's hard because redwoods kind of start in southern Oregon and then they go into California, and they are huge, gigantic trees. And so anyways, that's what the picture is from. So it's just two pictures. I just kind of wanted to I like the pictures, so I just wanted to use them. And then my journaling is more of the point of the layout than anything else. Anyways, on to the actual layout. Sorry, that was a bit of a long description. I am using, it is called Burlap and Bouquets, I believe. I think that's right. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure who the actual manufacturer is. Let's see if I can grab a strip, if it'll tell me. Here we go. Sorry, I just have to grab something. It is by Fancy Pants. Okay, so that is what I'm using. And I use the burlap pattern paper as my back border. And then I picked this really pretty light coral color because it matched the bridge. The way I did I don't know, I guess the bridge is, I mean, I know it's red, but it's kind of a lighter red because it's older, just the way I snapped it, however, so it fit in really well. So that's why I chose that color. And then I loved this teal color with the little flowers on it. So that's the bouquet part. And so I had to use that. So that was my third color. But then I decided it just needed one other little thing. So I chose this really pretty, and the only way I could think to describe it even to you is this light mustard yellow color. And I loved the way it looked, but I chose it so I could bring in that yellow star paper. And I just had, it's just from my scraps, it was just a little bit that I had, but I really wanted to tie it in, and you're going to see me use, I'm going to do some triangles in a second, and I wanted to use some of that yellow for the triangles, so you'll see me do that in a minute. But first, I'm just going to ink up the edges of 3 triangles, and this is from the same, the coral paper, and all I did is I cut a chunk out from behind my photo, because I knew it was going to be covered up with that anyway, so I just cut a chunk there, and that's how I was able to do my triangles. And you're going to see me kind of do the same thing with the yellow. I go and I cut where I know I'm going to see right here, I'm cutting it. I know it's going to get covered up, so I don't mind just taking a chunk out, and I'm making little tiny triangles, so it's not a big deal. So you're just seeing me do that, and then I end up stitching on it because it's coral on coral, it's not really standing out, so I just wanted it to stand out. Even with the inking, I wanted it to stand out just a little bit more. So you can see I stitched along the edges of it, and I will stitch that third one as well, but I just wanted to make sure I have everything lined up the way I wanted it before I stitch it, because I didn't want to stitch it and then if I wanted to add something it wouldn't work, which is a good idea because I did actually end up adding something and it would not have worked if I had stitched that one down. So here you see me just putting a little string on that tag there, and now I'm going to play around with some frames. I love the way it turned out with the frames that I add, and I'm just kind of playing, seeing what would go well, and this is what I end up doing. I love the way that frame kind of just embellished, and it kind of highlighted that little cluster. So I just kind of like the way it looks, so I decided to use that frame there, and then I'll do the stitching of the triangle as well. So there's still, all 3 triangles are stitched, but it's just, I had to wait until I got that frame there. And then you're going to see me try and use, I wanted to try to tie a little bit of brown in, but it just didn't look right. It wasn't working. I thought at first maybe it would work, but then I'm like, no, it doesn't. So I just take that back off, but and just use this little piece of a frame I had left over from another project, so it worked well right there. And so now I'm going to work on my bottom layer. And at first I thought I would use A Lovely Day. It was a Project Life card that I had left over, but it didn't end up, it wasn't the right shade of yellow. So instead I decided to grab just the bottom of one frame, and I'm just going to trim it off because I just want the yellow. I don't need the blue, that teal color that's on it. So you see me just trimming it, and then I'm just going to kind of layer and do a play with frames there. And I tried really hard to use that cute little piece of wood veneer, but it doesn't end up making it on my layout. I thought it would look really cute, and it probably would have worked if I wanted to, but I end up doing something else with that frame, so that wood veneer just doesn't fit any longer. And here you see me kind of fiddling around with the frame and how I want it to be. So there's that, and I probably could have edited a little bit of that out, sorry. Just kind of showing you how I go about. This layout took me a long time. I had a really hard time starting the layout when I didn't know how to do, I knew I wanted the coral, that was kind of the very first thing I knew I wanted to do. But other than that, I could not decide how else to make the layout work the way I wanted to, and I kept trying to tie in a little bit more of the burlap, and it just wasn't working, and finally I did give up on it, but I tried really hard to make it work, and it just didn't. So here you're gonna see me start to work on my title, and then it'll be all done, because I figured everyone knows how people do their title, so I kind of trim some of this out. But I do title it That Was Our Jam, so there you see. And it's a little wonky now that I'm looking at it, so I might go back and kind of straighten out my title a little bit. Normally I don't care, but this one is really wonky, so it needs to get fixed. And here you see me doing a little bit of my journaling, and so I have to move the frame part because I have one piece of the frame, and I ended up doing my journaling inside the teal frame, so I had to move that, and it worked fine. I just put it up above the photo of myself, and I think it worked well. Just another extra little layer. And the journaling is just talking about exactly what I was saying, but I originally did it in yellow because I wanted it to I didn't want it to stand out too much, but then you couldn't even read it. Like, you would strain your eyes trying to read my journaling. So I just went back over it with my gray Sharpie, and now you can read it really well. And now I'm just kind of doing the final touches of doing little bits of embellishments here and there. I tied in a tiny bit of gold. That's really the only piece I have is that gold paper clip, but I really liked it, so I wanted to add it. And then in the middle I used a heart with a couple of enamel dots, and up at the top I used another bow, and I added an enamel dot right in the middle of it because I always think it's cute when you can do a little extra to your embellishments and kind of personalize them. And then I have a few of the Dear Lizzy puffy stickers that I'm adding, and I had this leftover frame. I've had this wood veneer frame for a long time, and so I just kind of was playing and it went there, and I'm like, okay, perfect, I'm going to use it, and I can officially say I am all done with those. And so the very last thing you're going to see me do is put on that pretty potty girl, and I just kind of used a kind of darker shade of pink to do my date stamp as well. And I add the little banner, and that's where I decided on the color was because of the banner. And you're going to see me play around with that for a little bit. That's where it ends up, but I try and put it in a whole bunch of other places just to see, play around. But it does end up right back there. And after that, I put that little lady down at the corner by my journaling to kind of highlight where my journaling is. And that's it, guys. That's my layout. So here's a few close-ups, and there's going to be some still photos as well. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye everyone.